At a hospital, there is this guy named Taegu, who is a notorious gangster belonging to President Yang's gang. But he also has a small family behind him. That's his older sister and a 5-year-old niece. Taegu's sister has leukemia, so she often has to go to the hospital. Today Taegu took the opportunity to pick them up. This has been Taegu's motivation to live up to the present because his sister and her child are his only family. Tonight is also his niece's birthday, and he gave her an iPad as a gift. Afterward, he left them with the driver to go back to his own child to get some medicine for his sister. The next day, Taegu went to Bang Buksong's place to demand someone. The relationship between these two gangs is very tense. Prior to this, both sides had a territorial dispute. Bang Buksong is arresting Taegu's juniors. In terms of power, Bang Buksong is stronger than them. The director, who is known for his strong words, warned Taegu that they spared his subordinates' lives out of respect for him. The chairman of Bang Buksong wanted to recruit Taegu under his leadership, but Taegu is a very loyal person, and he directly rejected that offer. Taegu then went to see a doctor to ask about the results of her sister's bone marrow donation registration. But the results were not consistent because they were sisters with different fathers. Because a suitable bone marrow donor could not be found, his sister did not have much longer to live. Taegu sat in contemplation in the hospital waiting area when suddenly his sister's phone rang. While he and she were talking, the phone suddenly lost contact. Under the pouring rain, a horrific traffic accident unfolded. Sitting on the side of the road right now is Taegu. He looked towards that familiar iPad box. The accident killed both his sister and niece. At the funeral, Boss Yang of his gang also came to offer his condolences. It can be said that in addition to his family, Taegu trusts Yang very much. He has followed him since the first days he entered this gangster world. The two sat and talked, and he said that today was Taegu's niece's birthday. But I didn't expect that the president somewhere would do such a miserable thing, just because he couldn't win him over, but would dare to touch his family? Taegu was just listening quietly at this time. Will I go see him? What are you going to do? Isn't that what you want too? So that night Taegu arranged to meet the president of the Buksong state at a sauna. He expressed his condolences for Taegu's loss and promised him that he would find the person behind this incident and bring them to Taegu. Taegu immediately replied that regardless, if it wasn't orchestrated by Chairman Song, he would treat it as an accident. This answer of Taegu made him very satisfied. He once again attracted him to his gang. But Taegu did not answer but asked permission to take a cold shower first and then come back. He walked towards the pool, then scooped a few buckets of cold water and poured it on his body to wake up. Taegu then looked towards the chairman's juniors waiting at the door. His hand now reached for a knife in the pots. Slowly walking towards the bathroom, he quickly struck down the gate guards, leaving them unable to react. Taegu then went straight inside and stabbed the president, but outside now only blood splatters were seen. After finishing work, he took a shower to clean off the blood on his body, then through the bathroom window hanging outside, he drove the car that was left there. The surrounding space also became extremely cold. Early the next morning, Director Yang was waiting for Taegu at the airport. He gave him a bag of money and a new ID card. He told you to go to Jeju Island for a week, then someone would come to pick you up and cross the sea to Russia. As soon as Taegu left, his gang also started to move. A bloody war immediately broke out. When the state lost its chairman, they attacked with all their might on all fronts to take over the area of operations. A lot of blood was shed, but this side Taegu stayed out of that war. He has finished his duty. When Taegu arrived at the airport, it was pouring rain. He was about to light a cigarette when he suddenly received a phone call from a woman. She was Chae Yoon. She said she came to pick him up on behalf of her uncle because he had guests. It turned out that Director Yang had prepared someone to welcome Taegu in advance, so he immediately followed her. The atmosphere in the car was quite tense. Taegu was about to open the window to enjoy the sea breeze when Chae Yoon cried out in discomfort because the wind blew her hair and made her unable to drive. Seeing that, Taegu quickly closed the car door to go home. On this side, an uncle is taking guns out of the fish's stomachs. He is Kudo, the person Yang asked to entrust Taegu. He used to be a famous big brother but went into hiding and became an arms dealer. Today his customers are some gangsters with ties to the Russian mafia. They buy guns to resell to the Japanese Yajuka gang. But the fact that Kudo did not sell through them made them feel uncomfortable. He did not take them in his eyes and immediately closed the door and let the dogs chase them away. Right now, Chae Yoon has brought Taegu back. His appearance here seems not very welcome. Kudo asked how long he would stay here. Taegu replied he would stay for a week and then go to Russia. When Chae Yoon heard that, he mocked her, intending to go there and make a revolution. She saw Taegu not eating and immediately took his bowl to wash, leaving Taegu bewildered and not understanding what was going on. That night Taegu contacted his juniors but no one picked up the phone. He knew that after he left, the gang would attack Buksong and his group, so he was quite worried. Director Yang's side is the same. He is tensely waiting for the outcome of this war. Suddenly a junior came to report the situation. They had lost Director Ma. Seeing that, Yang immediately cursed angrily, saying that it was okay to lose anyone, but Director Ma. This made him panic. Not only that, Chairman Song is still alive. He was promptly treated and is out of danger. At this moment, Director Ma of the Buksong gang called. Yang trembled on the phone. On the other end of the line, Director Ma gritted his teeth and warned Yang about his reckless actions. "I'll cut your stomach open and see what you eat to get so big." Having finished speaking, he walked towards Yang's subordinates who were being captured. He took a knife and cut off these guys' ears and then sent them to Yang's place. Yang went to a man, Joe Seo, a corrupt prosecutor, to tell everything and begged him to come forward and help. Because he knew that if the previous incident had failed, even his life would now be very difficult to maintain. The prosecutor saw that and had to make a phone call to the person he called Buk Song's ghost director. Returning to Taegu's side, he woke up early in the morning and was about to light a cigarette when he suddenly heard gunshots. Stepping outside, it turned out to be Chae Yoon shooting bottles. Needless to say, her technique is really amazing. Just as Taegu was observing attentively, he suddenly saw Chae Yoon placing the gun above his head. Seeing this, he ran over in panic. Chae Yoon still did not put down the gun, but she did not hesitate to squeeze it, making Taegu turn pale in fear. But the gun was out of bullets. Chae Yoon glanced at him and left as if nothing happened. It's really not normal. The days for Taegu just passed by like that. He can't blink because the memory of standing in the morgue always haunts his mind. He stayed awake until morning, and when Taegu stepped outside, he saw Chae Yoon's car parked outside. Suddenly, the honking of the car horn startled him, and he rushed over to find Chae Yoon slumped over the steering wheel, a syringe still in his hand, which left him in a state of panic. Before he could figure out what to do, Uncle Kudo rushed over and told him to quickly drive Chae Yoon to the hospital. It turns out Chae Yoon had a serious illness that couldn't be treated in South Korea, so he was raising money to send her to the United States. Despite a success rate of only 20%, if she didn't get treatment, Chae Yoon wouldn't survive another month. At this point, Taegu didn't know what to say, and the two of them looked outside at the pouring rain in silence. On the other side, the prosecutor had arranged a meeting between Yang and Director Ma of the Buk Song gang. Ma, seeing that Yang wasn't eating, warned him, suggesting it would be best not to eat, or else he might end up having his stomach cut open, making his hands dirty. Prosecutor Joe Seo intervened, reminding Ma that after all, Chairman Song was still alive, and Director Ma had already seen a few of Yang's men. "Can't we settle this matter peacefully?" Of course, hearing this, Director Ma was not pleased at all. He couldn't just let the matter end like that. But Prosecutor Joe Seo wasn't going to let these gangsters show their faces in front of him. He asked them if they thought he was their friend just because they were all sitting at the same table. He was about to have a performance evaluation, and they had caused quite a commotion. Director Ma realized he had to back down and suggested at least settling for a reasonable price. Prosecutor Joe Seo made a proposal to them, noting that Director Yang was also under his protection. Therefore, they couldn't just kill him. Now, bring Taegu here. After all, the one who attacked Chairman Song was him. Let Director Ma handle him, and blame everything on Taegu. Once that's done, clean everything up, and let it end this way, which would be the most reasonable course of action. Director Yang heard this and did not offer any objections. On the other side, Chae Yoon had already woken up. As Big Brother Kudo had some guests, Taegu stayed there to wait for her. Chae Yoon promptly got up and changed her clothes right on the spot. Afterward, the two of them drove back home. On the way, Chae Yoon asked Taegu if he had something to say to her. Did he think she was about to die, and that's why he felt sorry for her? Taegu didn't know how to respond to Chae Yoon's question. Chae Yoon then told him that she wanted to go eat. Afterward, the two of them went to a restaurant specializing in fresh fish soup. Chae Yoon mentioned that it didn't matter if she died, but she would regret it if she didn't get to eat this fish soup. Seeing Taegu hesitating, Chae Yoon asked if he didn't like this dish, saying it would be a waste. As Taegu watched Chae Yoon enjoy her meal, he was about to start eating when she ordered some wine. She handed a glass to Taegu, but he declined. It was at this point that Taegu asked Chae Yoon how she became so skilled at shooting. She claimed that there was nothing special about it. All one needed to do was think about the person they wanted to kill. Taegu then took a sip of the wine, as he knew he had to drive later. Chae Yoon assured him not to worry, as there had never been any alcohol checks on Jeju Island. Well, it turned out that they were indeed stopped and subjected to an alcohol check. Fortunately, Taegu had only taken a sip, so he was fine, and his identification wasn't discovered. On the other hand, Chae Yoon, who was actually drunk, was struggling with the police officer. On their way back, Taegu received a call from Director Yang, who informed him that he would be arriving the next day. At this point, Taegu asked why he couldn't contact his gang members. Yang explained that due to the failed plan, they had all gone into hiding. He also mentioned that he would be coming to Russia with Taegu and instructed him not to leave any traces behind. Continuing their journey in the car, Chae Yoon had sobered up by now. She turned to Taegu and finally asked why he had committed a crime that forced him to flee all the way to distant Russia. Of course, Taegu remained tight-lipped, and when Chae Yoon kept pressing him, he angrily stopped the car. "Enough," he said. "I told you not to say anything more." Chae Yoon, showing no fear, replied, "Of course, you must have done something significant." Her words infuriated Taegu, but he refrained from taking any action. Despite Taegu's anger, Chae-yoon continued to wear a defiant expression, displaying an indifference befitting someone who believed they were close to death. Taegu didn't bother responding further and continued driving. At Chae-yoon's house, Uncle Kudo was in the middle of a transaction with the gangsters, just like the previous time. However, this time, the gangsters turned on him and launched an attack. Kudo pulled out his gun and fired back at them, and the sound of gunshots startled the Russian men waiting outside. Just as Taegu and Chae-yoon returned, they noticed the unfamiliar cars and the Russian men outside, sensing that something was amiss. Shortly after they entered the house, gunshots erupted again, and a battle immediately unfolded outside. Chae-yoon acted swiftly, shooting and killing the mafia members in the cars. Taegu also sprang into action, eliminating the remaining attackers. Inside the house, Uncle Kudo had the upper hand due to having a gun, and he demanded that the attackers give him money. However, at that moment, another Russian man appeared outside and fired shots into the building. Kudo immediately returned fire, but they were locked in an endless standoff. As they were about to open the door, Uncle Kudo lay lifeless in a pool of blood. His life was hanging by a thread. Just as one of the attackers was about to rush towards Chae-yoon, Taegu intervened in time and took the gang leader as a hostage. Seeing their leader in Taegu's grasp, the other henchmen reluctantly dropped their weapons. Uncle Kudo managed to exchange a few words with Chae-yoon before he took his last breath. While Taegu was momentarily distracted, the gang leader managed to pull out a knife and attempted to attack, but he quickly fled when Chae-yoon shot and killed several of his men who were trying to rush in. Taegu approached Chae-yoon and gently took her hand, fully aware of the profound pain of losing a loved one. He then collected the money and the guns, and together with Chae-yoon, they left the scene. However, Chae-yoon's emotional distress caused her condition to deteriorate once again, and Taegu had to extend his hand to prevent her from biting her tongue in her frenzy. To avoid implicating her hosts, Chae-yoon could only explain that her uncle was renovating the house, and they needed to stay there for a few days. Seeing Taegu's presence, they mistakenly believed he was her boyfriend. That evening, Taegu and Chae-yoon sat by the seaside, drinking wine. "Are you okay? Do I look okay?" Taegu asks. "I hate people who know that I'm not okay and still insist on asking if I'm okay," Chae-yoon replied. "Are you okay? You seem fine to me," Taegu responded, somewhat awkwardly. Chae-yoon continued, "I also hate people who know that I'm not okay and still pretend that I am." Taegu admitted with a hint of discomfort, "I'm not completely okay." Chae-yoon began to explain her story. She shared that her family had been killed by a Russian gang in the past due to Uncle Kuto's vendetta, and he had taken revenge by eliminating the entire gang. However, the underworld considered him a legend, and they should have left her family alone. Why did her family have to die? Every day, she cursed him to die, but now that he was dead, she couldn't understand why she felt so much pain. She was all alone now, and she didn't have much time left to live. Why did everyone keep leaving her one by one? After Taegu had escorted Chae-yoon back to her room, he thought she was asleep and quietly left. Suddenly, Chae-yoon asks, "Do you want to sleep with me? I'm not afraid of being judged. After all, I'm about to die anyway." Taegu immediately responded, "I'm not okay, but I won't sleep with anyone who invites me." He then left the room coldly. Chae-yoon lay down, muttered a curse at him, and waited in anticipation. However, when the door opened, she jumped up, hoping to see him return. But Taegu only came back to check if the door was locked and then left again. His actions made Chae-yoon break into a smile. That night, Taegu found it difficult to fall asleep once again. Tomorrow was the day he would leave, and he sat there, drinking and smoking. Meanwhile, Chae-yoon lay in the room next door, also unable to sleep, restless at the thought of his departure. The next day, they had breakfast together, and Chae-yoon was a bit surprised to see Taegu enjoying the fresh fish soup. "You can eat this dish?" she asks. "Not only can I eat it, but I really like this dish," Taegu replied. He went on to share a childhood memory, saying that when he lived near the sea, whenever there was nothing to eat, his mother would go to the seafood market and gather leftover fish to make this dish. Strangely, his older sister disliked it, but he loved it because it reminded him of his mother. Afterward, they walked together along the coastline, both being rather quiet. Chae-yoon had now completely leaned on Taegu, and they silently walked the entire stretch of the beach together. When they returned to the lodging, Taegu asked to borrow Chae-yoon's car to go to the airport. However, Chae-yoon immediately grabbed his hand, expressing her unease. "Don't go. I feel very anxious. I don't want to be alone." Despite her plea, Taegu ultimately didn't listen and made the decision to leave. At the airport, Taegu noticed the presence of Young and director Ma, along with their gang members, suggesting that they had prepared to capture him in advance. Taegu had just arrived at the airport when he received a phone call from one of his gang members. The member informed him that Young had betrayed them, and at that very moment, Taegu also saw Young. However, the phone call was abruptly cut off from the other end, leaving Taegu concerned. Realizing the danger, he stepped towards Yang's group. Yang spotted him, and Taegu immediately tried to flee. Yang's gang members pursued him right away. Taegu fought back with all his might, resisting the gang members who were chasing him. He reached his car, but they quickly got into their own vehicles and continued to pursue him. During the pursuit, the gang members relentlessly rammed into Taegu's car and cornered him. In the end, one of their cars flipped over, and Taegu's vehicle also suffered a head-on collision. Despite being injured in the collision, Taegu fought back vigorously against the gang members. He managed to subdue them one by one, using his car keys as a weapon. After defeating them, he made a bloody escape outside. When the police arrived at the scene, he seized the opportunity to steal another car and flee. On the other side, Yang couldn't reach Taegu and was confronted by Director Ma, who expressed his anger. He told Yang that Taegu's close gang member had been captured. Director Ma implied that he could use Yang to pressure Taegu to appear, which frightened Yang. "You're nothing but a beast. Stay away from me," Director Ma said with disgust towards Yang. Taegu rushed to find Che-yoon but couldn't locate her. When he asked the homeowner, he learned that she had returned home. He hurriedly called her and asked her to come back, but Che-yoon didn't listen and continued inside. Taegu felt helpless and could only drive to her location. On the way, Taegu received a call from Director Yang, who threatened to kill all of his gang members if he didn't show up. After that, Director Ma told Taegu that if he came, he would receive a gift, but if he didn't, he would also kill Che-yoon. Hearing that Che-yoon had been captured, Taegu stopped his car and told Director Ma that he would come but only if he could see Che-yoon first. Director Ma handed the phone to Taegu, and Che-yoon told him not to come, as she was ready to die. Taegu responded that he would die anyway, so why not let her be alone? Taegu drove to the location where Director Ma's gang members were waiting. After they checked his body, they immediately jumped up and attacked him. They beat him so severely that he was covered in blood. They dragged him inside. Coming in front of Yang and Ma, he didn't care and looked towards Che-yoon. "Are you okay? Still fine? Are you okay? Do I look okay? But anyway, thank you for asking." Taegu then told Director Ma to keep his promise to release his subordinates. But when his subordinate called, he discovered that his junior had been murdered. He turned around and asked Yang if it was him who did it. That made Director Ma angry. "Even though they are gangsters together, you are really a dirty dog." Hearing that, Taegu was also extremely angry. He just wanted to rush up but he was held back and couldn't do anything. "If it weren't for the fact that I couldn't kill you, I would have disemboweled you." That young guy was still stubborn and turned to attack him. The ghost director watched and felt irritated, so he rushed out and punched him. "You dirty dog, don't let me get my hands dirty anymore, you're not human." Then, he turned to Taegu and said, "I promised you a gift, didn't I? About the deaths of your sister and niece, I investigated as you asked, and it turns out we didn't do it. You can guess who did it." Taegu, at this moment, realized that Yang was the one behind the deaths of his sister and niece. It turned out that Yang was afraid that if Taegu switched sides to the Boksong gang, he would have nothing left. So, he heartlessly killed Taegu's loved ones and framed Chairman Song. At this point, Director Ma told his men to let go so that Taegu could attack him. When Taegu was choking him, Director Ma handed a knife to Yang to attack Taegu. It is true that this Director Ma is a ruthless man. He casually watched Taegu and Yang tearing each other apart. Taegu, at that moment, mustered all his anger, ignoring the pain, to try to kill Yang. Even if it meant his own death, he was determined to take Yang with him. However, Director Ma ordered his henchmen to stop Taegu. Despite Che-yoon's cries and pleas, they stabbed Taegu, causing him to collapse. Director Ma then approached and stated that he also wanted to kill Yang as a gift for Taegu, but they would stop here. He then stabbed Taegu once more. Next, each of his henchmen took turns stabbing Taegu. In her utmost agony, Che-yoon crawled to Taegu. Her tears had fallen to the very last drops. Taegu said, "Why are you crying? Don't cry for me in vain." Che-yoon shook her head and replied, "I'm not crying. Why would I cry for you? Don't say that. I'll die before you do, you stubborn girl." These words might have brought a small chuckle from Che-yoon, and the final words they exchanged held a hint of optimism in the midst of their tragic end. Director Yang stepped forward, pushing Che-yoon aside, and then plunged the knife into Taegu's throat, ending the fragile thread of his life. At this point, Che-yoon had no more words left. She knelt down, gently closing Taegu's still open eyes. The wretched Yang demanded to deal with Che-yoon, but Director Ma wouldn't allow it. "You despicable bastard, look at yourself. You're the one who should be lying here," he said to Yang. Then he ordered his men to clean up the scene, and they set fire to the warehouse. Che-yoon watched as the flames engulfed everything before turning away and leaving. Yang in the car could finally muster a wicked grin. Che-yoon returned to Taegu's room, where she sat in contemplation until morning. She made a phone call to inquire about the address of Director Ma's breakfast spot. Then, she rode her motorcycle alone on the familiar road, arriving at the restaurant. She carried Taegu's bag with her and walked inside with determination. Upon entering, she cast a disdainful glance at the group of thugs casually drinking. She turned back to lock the entrance door securely. One of them stepped forward and taunted her, inviting her to have a drink with them. The others joined in, mocking her. However, as soon as he turned around, Che-yoon had her gun pointed at his chin. "Die, you scum," she declared, and pulled the trigger. Chae-yoon then continuously fired a gun at the people in the restaurant. Not a single person ran away from her gun. The ghost director saw this and came out to check the situation. At this time, she was still reloading bullets. As soon as a guy tried to rush forward, she immediately shot and killed him. Director Ma was left outside the door by the group in the room. He quickly accepted his fate. Chae-yoon immediately shot him dead. She entered the room and fired all her bullets. The guy in black is the one who killed Uncle Kudo. This bastard is the one who killed Taegu. You shot them with more than just one bullet. Chae-yoon kept shooting and shooting until he ran out of bullets. Then she walked out, which had now become a bloody battlefield. She left to get her car, just drove out to the beach. It's all finally over. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel to support us. Goodbye and see you again.